Think Iceland is all about the northern lights, dramatic volcanoes, and the famous Blue Lagoon? Think again. Beneath those surreal landscapes lies a fascinating web of customs and regulations that can catch visitors completely off guard the moment they step off the plane at Keflavik Airport. This tiny island nation enforces some truly peculiar rules. Once an Icelandic horse departs the country, it's permanently barred from returning. Beer was outlawed for decades while spirits flowed freely. Nearly 70% of babies are born to unmarried parents. Selling underwear decorated with the national flag can result in hefty fines. Before entering any hot spring, you're required to shower completely naked. And when nature calls in the wilderness, you might find yourself answering behind a boulder, as public restrooms are virtually non-existent for miles. Ready to discover 15 taboos and distinctive rules that define life in Iceland? Let's dive in. Number 15. Avoid rude hand gestures. Icelanders place tremendous importance on body language. And in a culture that values quietness and restraint, even the smallest gesture carries enormous weight. On this tranquil island, any form of disrespectful hand movement, whether it's raising your middle finger, whistling to catch someone's attention, or even flashing the seemingly innocent OK sign, is viewed as deeply offensive. A 2021 Nordic social survey revealed something striking. Approximately 78% of Icelanders confessed they would deliberately avoid anyone, whether local or foreign, who displayed what they considered inappropriate hand gestures. The sensitivity extends beyond mere gestures. Eye contact follows its own delicate protocol here. While sustained eye contact signals honesty and confidence in many societies, Icelanders interpret prolonged staring as aggressive, potentially flirtatious, or outright suspicious. The local convention involves maintaining eye contact for roughly 1 to 2 seconds before courteously glancing away. For residents, extended eye contact doesn't convey connection. It communicates confrontation. Countless tourists have recounted experiences where an enthusiastic wave or a lingering gaze in a cafe prompted locals to immediately avert their eyes, often displaying visible confusion or discomfort. And the locals themselves? They won't confront or criticize you openly. Instead, they'll respond with noticeable coldness and emotional distance. Have you ever encountered such cultural dissonance or found yourself misunderstood simply because of a gesture? Number 14. Public urination is quietly accepted. Imagine needing to relieve yourself beside a cemetery monument, next to a hiking trail, or near a rural farmhouse without fear of fines or legal consequences. Surprisingly, this is the reality throughout much of Iceland. While Icelandic legislation doesn't explicitly authorize outdoor urination in the remote highlands, nobody will interfere as long as you exercise discretion, stay away from crowds, and absolutely leave no toilet paper or refuse behind. Why such an unusual tolerance? Iceland hosts nearly 2 million tourists annually, despite having a population of merely 400,000 residents. Yet public restrooms are virtually absent at renowned destinations like Skogafoss Waterfall, the Laugavegur Trail, and the Landmannalaugar Highlands. One American visitor recalled ducking behind a camper van to answer nature's call, simultaneously feeling like a fugitive and profoundly relieved. Meanwhile, photographs circulating on Reddit captured distant figures squatting behind hillsides or roadside markers, faces obscured, but intentions unmistakable. Icelanders don't openly promote this practice, but they comprehend and accept it under one non-negotiable condition: leave absolutely no trace. This represents the unspoken ethical standard for those inhabiting this land of fire and ice. However, at heavily visited locations like Gullfoss Waterfall, authorities have erected sardonic signs reading, "This is not a toilet. Please don't leave your masterpiece here." On the route to Mount Esja, you'll even encounter illustrated instructions demonstrating proper burial techniques for toilet paper, accompanied by a blunt reminder: if you cannot bury it, pack it out in your backpack. Number 13. Raw meat, eggs, and fresh milk are strictly prohibited. Picture yourself preparing for an Icelandic adventure, the land of magnificent waterfalls and gleaming glaciers. Tempted to pack some familiar foods from home? Unfortunately, raw meat, uncooked eggs, and unpasteurized milk are absolutely forbidden. Icelandic customs officials will confiscate these items at the airport, all in the name of preserving the genetic integrity of local agriculture. This seems perfectly reasonable until you realize Iceland imports nearly everything you might consider bringing. In reality, approximately 90% of the nation's vegetables and fruits arrive from overseas, and statistics indicate the country imports roughly 60% of its total annual food requirements. Beyond locally produced lamb, fish, dairy products, and limited greenhouse-grown vegetables, everyday items like apples, oranges, avocados, bananas, carrots, and even onions all originate from the Netherlands, Spain, or the United States. Visit a suburban grocery store prepared for sticker shock. A single imported apple can exceed $2, while almond milk, if available at all, costs 3 times what you'd pay in New York. Locals have adapted to this reality. They accept stretches when tomatoes disappear from city shelves entirely, or when egg prices surge 60% after snowstorms delay European shipments. In certain rural communities, stores have gone days without any fresh vegetables, forcing residents to share food through community networks or cultivate spinach under UV lights in their kitchens. Number 12. Marrying someone with your surname is discouraged. With only about 387,000 inhabitants and over 1,100 years of geographic isolation in the North Atlantic, Iceland possesses one of the most genetically uniform populations in the modern world. According to the Icelandic Genetics Center, nearly 70% of Icelanders share common ancestors within just a few generations, especially when both parents are native-born. So, marrying someone with your identical surname isn't just awkward. It's practically an unspoken prohibition. Sharing a surname often indicates close biological relation. That's why Icelanders have long established the practice of verifying genetic connections before relationships become serious. And to prevent the risk of same-blood, different-name situations, there's actually a unique application called Icelandinga app, basically a dating gene map, developed using the National Genetics Database, which is one of the world's only comprehensive population-wide genetic systems. This app lets you check your biological relationship to any Icelander by entering their name or even just tapping your phones together. If you're closely related, it triggers an alarm, a feature locals jokingly call the incest alert. While that might sound pretty funny, the app is actually super popular among young people, especially in Reykjavik, where social circles overlap so much that your friend's acquaintance could easily be a distant cousin. Some people even turn it into a party game, playfully asking, "Let's discover if we're related." Number 11. Clothing is forbidden in hot springs. If you've never immersed yourself in warm, jade-tinted water while surrounded by snowy vistas and steaming volcanoes, you really haven't genuinely experienced Iceland's essence. And to participate authentically, forget about wearing anything, seriously. In Iceland, entering a hot spring in a swimsuit is considered disrespectful. This isn't just some regulation, it's a deeply ingrained cultural tradition. Complete nudity is how Icelanders demonstrate cleanliness, equality, and their belief that the human body contains nothing shameful. At public pools like Laugardalslaug in Reykjavik or Mývatn nature baths, there are mandatory naked shower zones where visitors are required to wash their hair and thoroughly scrub their entire body, no clothing, no rushing, before entering the hot pools. If you don't comply, staff members or even fellow bathers might call you out and make you start over. At the Blue Lagoon, which is Iceland's most famous artificial hot spring and attracts over 1.2 million annual visitors, international guests might feel shy at first, but most are quickly won over by the liberating sensation of soaking in 100-degree water while surrounded by billowing steam and Arctic breezes. For locals, hot springs are way more than just relaxation. They're places for healing, socializing, and even outdoor therapy. Icelanders believe the mineral-enriched water helps with muscle pain, lifts your mood, and improves circulation. Some even describe it as nature's clinic with no prescription needed. Number 10. Alcohol and beer sold exclusively at state stores. Iceland actually went through a pretty strange era lasting over 7 decades when hard liquor was legal, but beer was completely banned. The prohibition started in 1915, when the government outlawed all alcohol for health reasons. In 1933, hard liquor was re-legalized, mostly for economic reasons and because of pressure from fish export partners like Spain and Portugal. But beer stayed forbidden for another 56 years. Why? Well, beer was seen as too affordable, too addictive, and too easy to abuse, especially among young people and laborers. But Icelanders didn't just give up on drinking. They came up with bjorliki, a creative cocktail that mixed non-alcoholic beer with the local spirit brennivin. Finally, on March 1st, 1989, beer was legalized, and ever since then, Icelanders celebrate National Beer Day, when locals and tourists raise their glasses to beer freedom. Still, beer in Iceland is tightly regulated. You can't buy beer at supermarkets, only at Vinbúðin, which is the state-operated liquor store chain. The beer you see in supermarkets is actually low alcohol, under 2.25%, and doesn't even count as real beer. In fact, Iceland is now one of the top 5 most expensive countries for beer, with $10 to $12 per pint at bars and $3 to $5 per can at Vinbúðin. Number 9. Fraudulent marriages are prohibited. With increasingly stringent immigration regulations, some foreigners have attempted what are called technical marriages with Icelandic citizens to secure legal residency, then divorcing after 1 to 2 years once they've obtained long-term permits. According to local legal sources, each arrangement can cost between $15,000 and $25,000. Iceland's immigration agency acknowledges that investigating fraudulent marriages proves extremely challenging, since couples often possess proof of cohabitation, vacation photographs, shared addresses, and matching narratives about married life. Over the past 5 years, marriage-based residency applications have increased by over 40%, predominantly from developing nations in Asia and Africa. Some couples meet online, others connect through secretive chat groups or immigration forums. A few cases have been exposed, but most proceed undetected. Though no official statistics exist, local media estimate that 100 to 150 marriages annually are suspected as fake love. However, only about 5 to 10% undergo actual investigation. Icelandic law forbids sham marriages of any nature, and if discovered, both parties face criminal charges. Foreigners risk deportation, while locals can receive fines or suspended sentences. Number 8. 70% of children have unmarried parents. Do you believe being a single mother warrants pity or judgment? In numerous countries, bearing a child outside wedlock means women endure stigma or even social rejection. But you might be astonished to learn that in Iceland, nearly 70% of children are born to unmarried parents. Yes, you heard correctly. In this Nordic nation of fewer than 400,000 residents, women having children without husbands is not merely accepted, it's normalized. You'll observe young mothers pushing strollers through Reykjavik parks, and nobody ever inquires, "Where's your husband?" No sympathetic glances, no whispered gossip. Icelanders view this as a personal choice, not an act of rebellion. With a robust welfare system, the government fully supports women to bear, raise, and care for children independently. They receive up to 12 months of parental leave, split between mother and father if present, plus financial assistance, healthcare, and education, even without a partner. In many cultures, single mothers remain stigmatized. But in Iceland, people question why you got married, not why you didn't. This frequently confuses foreigners. How can a society embrace this so effortlessly? The answer? They believe in women's capabilities and reject the notion that families must conform to traditional templates. Number 7. Movie theater intermissions confuse tourists. If you're watching a suspenseful film in an Icelandic theater and suddenly the screen goes dark, the lights illuminate, and everyone stands to exit, don't panic. The theater didn't experience a power failure. It's intermission, a completely standard unwritten practice in Iceland. At virtually every theater in Iceland, movies exceeding 90 minutes will almost invariably include a mid-film break. This 5 to 10 minute intermission isn't included in the movie's official runtime, but locals utilize it to visit the restroom, stretch their legs, or purchase additional snacks and beverages. No official legislation mandates it, but it's a tradition dating back to antiquated reel projectors, and now it's an ingrained habit for both theaters and audiences. Tourists often find it peculiar, especially during action-packed or horror films. But for locals, the break provides an opportunity to breathe, look around, and return to the movie refreshed. Some people even exploit the time to text, make calls, or update Instagram. Halfway through the movie, grabbing more Pepsi. Number 6. Child naming is strictly regulated. In most places, naming your child represents a personal, private decision, or, an avenue for parental self-expression. But in Iceland, it's a serious legal procedure, and selecting the wrong name can actually trigger legal complications. In this Nordic country, parents have 6 months following birth to register their child's name. Missing the deadline results in fines from the National Registry. But here's the surprise for visitors and foreigners. You cannot simply choose any name you desire. Names must be submitted to a specialized agency called the Icelandic Naming Committee, which determines whether the name complies with Icelandic grammar, culture, and tradition. The committee maintains a list of over 1,800 pre-approved names, categorized by gender, pronunciation, and grammatical compatibility with Icelandic speech and writing. Names like Lucifer, or even Harriet, which are perfectly acceptable in the UK or US, can be rejected if they don't conform to Icelandic linguistic structure. If you insist on an unapproved name, your child won't receive an official passport, cannot enroll in school, or even establish a bank account until the name is changed to an accepted one. Number 5. Shoes must be removed indoors. In Iceland, removing your shoes when entering a home isn't legislation, but it's an unwritten rule that's rigorously observed. Similar to Norway, Sweden, or Japan, most homes feature a designated area near the entrance for coats, gloves, scarves, and most importantly, your footwear. Sounds straightforward, but why is it taken so seriously? Partly due to weather conditions. Iceland is perpetually wet, cold, and muddy, especially during winter. Bringing shoes inside doesn't merely soil the floors, it's perceived as disrespecting the homeowner's domain. Icelanders regard their homes as pristine sanctuaries for relaxation, meditation, and escaping the chaotic external world. Even children learn from an early age. Shoes stay outside, respect stays inside. Nobody needs to verbalize it. Just a stern look or a raised eyebrow from the host will remind you for the duration of your visit. Interestingly, many homes provide indoor slippers for guests, and hosts feel uncomfortable if you decline to use them. For them, maintaining dry and clean floors signifies care. Creating a mess constitutes a subtle transgression. Number 4. Littering is a major taboo. With nature so pristine it resembles a Nordic fairy tale. Discarding even a scrap of paper, a candy wrapper, or a cigarette butt isn't merely carelessness. It's an affront to national identity. Approximately 85% of Iceland's energy derives from renewable sources, predominantly geothermal. Iceland isn't just environmentally advanced in technology. Locals take clean living seriously, from minimizing food waste and plastic consumption to carrying personal trash bags to collect even litter that isn't theirs. At scenic locations, hiking trails, or outdoor hot springs, if someone drops a plastic bag, the next person will quietly retrieve it, perhaps with a gentle shake of their head. Smokers especially must never discard cigarette butts on grass or smoke in crowded natural areas. Locals won't shout or reprimand, they'll simply regard you as if you've tarnished their immaculate landscape. Fun fact: Icelandic tap water ranks among the purest globally, tasting superior to many premium bottled waters. So if you purchase bottled water, you're paying for something freely available while contributing plastic to one of the planet's cleanest ecosystems. If you visit, bring a reusable water bottle, a small trash bag, and remember, you're entering a country where avoiding litter represents a cultural value, not merely a suggestion. Number 3. Dogs were banned in the capital. You can bring your suitcase, wool hat, and travel map to Reykjavik, but if you're considering bringing a dog, well, you might want to reconsider. Few people know that Iceland's capital once completely prohibited pet dogs, and honestly, remnants of that ban still persist today. The prohibition was enacted way back in 1924, when Reykjavik confronted rising dog-related illnesses. To safeguard public health, officials banned all pet dogs within city limits. Rural residents could maintain working or hunting dogs, but not urbanites. Reptiles like snakes, lizards, or turtles remain banned for ecological reasons. The law has since relaxed, and you can now own a dog in Reykjavik, but only with official city permits, registration fees, and some pretty strict protocols for quarantine and vaccinations. Even so, dog ownership remains quite uncommon in Reykjavik culture, where cats have emerged as the city's gentle symbol. In fact, Reykjavik's cats maintain their own Facebook page. The Cats of Reykjavik page boasts thousands of followers, sharing photographs of felines strolling, lounging on cafe steps, or sunbathing in streets. Anna Gudborg Seversdottir, the page administrator, observes, "Cats are integral to Reykjavik's personality. Tourists adore them, and locals consistently carry treats for cats during their walks." Number 2. Selling flag-printed underwear is illegal. Are you wearing underwear decorated with a national flag merely for amusement? In Iceland, that's absolutely not funny. Seriously, selling or using underwear, swimsuits, or any item bearing the Icelandic flag is illegal. Sounds bizarre? Here's why it's so grave. The Icelandic flag, blue representing the ocean, white symbolizing ice, red signifying fire, isn't merely a symbol or fabric. It embodies the nation's soul. Any disrespect toward the flag can constitute a legal or cultural offense. Using it as a picnic blanket, sitting on it at the beach, laying it on the ground for an artistic photograph, you could receive an invitation to the police station for a friendly chat with the authorities. Some tourists have even incurred fines up to £100 or $450 simply for selling flag print bikinis at a summer fair. Several foreign brands have also encountered cultural backlash for inadvertently printing the flag on shoes, hats, or masks, sparking online outrage. Even during major celebrations like National Day on June 17th, you'll never witness anyone wearing the flag as a cape, despite that being considered a patriotic gesture in many countries. Number 1. Icelandic horses cannot return after leaving. Can you believe it? In Iceland, once your horse departs the country, it can never return. That's not merely a regulation, it's an absolute prohibition. Why such stringency? Because Iceland possesses one of the world's purest horse breeds, isolated from external influence for over 1,000 years. These horses are small yet strong, develop thick winter coats resembling polar bears, and possess the legendary tilt gait, smooth as gliding on ice. You'll encounter them throughout Iceland's highlands, friendly, playful, and perpetually ready to pose for photographs. Here's another twist. Icelandic equestrians wishing to compete internationally must rent or purchase horses abroad and bid permanent farewell to their four-legged friends if they transport them outside the country. No exceptions exist. No special accommodations are granted. So if you're an Icelandic horse invited to Paris for an international competition, would you dare board that plane knowing you'll never return to your icy homeland? And with that, we've explored 15 taboos and unique rules in Iceland. We hope this provides you with deeper insight into this remarkable country. Iceland is an extraordinary destination with countless wonders to discover, and respecting local culture will make your experience infinitely more meaningful. Thank you, and safe travels.